All kinds of movement of energy in our lives, isn't there? And you might be wondering, why would we make a big production of Chinese New Year? Didn't we just have a New Year's service a little over a month ago? Well, absolutely. And there are other New Year's services as well throughout the course of the year. There's the Persian New Year that comes in the springtime. There is Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year that comes in the fall. And if I'm not mistaken, all of us will have a birthday, or if you haven't already had one this year, you're going to have a birthday. So that symbolizes a new year too, right? And so what I discern that all this means is we can always begin again. Every day is a new beginning. Every day or every culture has these reminders that we can always start over if we want to. We don't have to just stay stuck in the same old rut doing the same old thing over and over again. There is an opportunity to look at ourselves and to feel the consciousness of the words, "Behold, I make all things new again." And so having that opportunity, especially since it's the year of the pig and the year of abundance and prosperity, I'm like all for it. How about you? So anybody with me, or are y'all just happy enough with your level of prosperity? I don't need any more of that. Well, I will graciously welcome some more and welcome the opportunity to know I can always begin again. It reminds me about what it is we are doing here at Unity of Fairfax, or what we're doing in our New Thought movement. We are seeking to know truth, capital T, truth, meaning we want to know what divinity is and how it relates to us and how we see it in ourselves and in our world. We want to understand the great principles of the universe, what keeps the stars in alignment and what keeps us alive and vibrant. There are big questions of meaning and purpose that drive us to a sacred container like this, to a community of faith that looks at spiritual principles and that engages in spiritual practices and education and service, so that we might know what is real and what is true and what informs our lives. But if we're going to engage that process, we always have to begin with ourselves. It is said that through all cultures that there is a moral imperative to learn about ourselves. I will make peace with this clicker. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity movement, said, "We must learn to watch our consciousness, its impulses and desires, as the chemist watches his solutions. Man forms his own consciousness from the elements of God, and he alone is responsible for the results." And some of us might look at a quote like this and think, and look at our lives and think, holy macaroni, if I don't like what I'm seeing, I must be to blame for all of this. The flip side, another interpretation, if you see a quote like this, is say, wow, I'm empowered. I'm not dependent on whatever's out there. I have choices and opportunities before me to shape my life with all the divine attributes that I have, with all of my impulses and thoughts and actions into something I really want it to be. It's the same experience. We're just going to there are two different interpretations of that. So we want to understand, what are we thinking? What are our impulses? What are our desires? What are our thoughts? Because those become the building blocks with which we shape the world. Additionally, some other great teachers have spoken on the matter as well. Lao Tzu, who was the founder of classical Taoism in China, said, "Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power." Powerful words that have been spoken to us throughout the ages. And so if we want to understand our pathway to truth, we have to know where we are starting. We have to start with right here. And there are a variety of different ways that we can get to know ourselves. There's a very superficial sort of ego level, such as, I love Chinese food, and I can't stand country music. And, I like the color, whatever this is, lavender, or I hate but no, hey, that's a strong word. I prefer summer over winter, might be a better one. We moved here from Florida, in case you didn't know. So those are some superficial things, and we want to honor those. But really, we want to get to the core of what's going on within us, what our deep desires and our deep needs and our deep feelings. And the only way we can do that is if we do some deep looking at ourselves, some introspection and inventory work as well. It's like, what's really going on with us? What do I need? What do I feel? How do I operate in the world? And does the way in which I operate and show up allow me to meet my needs, to meet my values, to meet my desires? Or am I setting up roadblocks to myself? Hold that to the side for just a moment. I want to segue to a central teaching we have in Unity, which is that each and every one of us is a living embodiment of the living, loving light of God. What was the affirmation in the meditation?
Living, loving expression of God.
I am a living, loving expression of God. Let's affirm that together. I am a living, loving expression of God. Or as we sometimes say, I am an embodiment of Christ consciousness. And this is all true. And yet at the same time, we run into a little dissonance when we do some deep introspective inner looking. Because we might find in ourselves, or might find from our life experiences, things we have done, things we have said, things we have not done, things we have not said, that really don't align with that. In other words, we might find where we've made mistakes, where we've made errors, or where we've just been ignorant or mean. And if you're a human being, chances are you have done all of those things. And so how do we reconcile that when we hear this teaching and it resonates with us and it feels right to us that we have this divinity within us and that we are all that, and then we also see the evidence that might point to the contrary? There's some dissonance, right? A way to address that is with an analogy, panning for gold. Has anybody ever gone panning for gold? Yeah. So you get the pan, you get in the water, and you scoop the stuff, and you go like that, and you do the hokey pokey. Wait, that's a different. It's just like when you do that, you naturally segue into the hokey pokey. And you're panning for gold, and all that is not gold gets released, right? And then at the bottom of your pan are these wonderful flakes, the truth of who you are. And that's what we want to focus on, and that's what this self-discovery is about. So I want to give you an example of self-discovery and knowing Christ consciousness and acknowledging where we have made mistakes and how we can address that. I'm going to put it all together for you. And all you have to do is rewind about 10 minutes. I'm going to use myself. I'm going to use live material. So we had this wonderful Chinese dance, and Chinese New Year is like, yay. And part of the thing that happens is the lion spits lettuce as a part of the culture. So here's your blessing. It's lettuce. Okay, so anyway. So we did that, and I was all excited, and I got up, and I introduced meditation, totally forgot about our guest, totally forgot that Amy and I went through the order service and put things exactly the way they were presented. And so I was left with two options at that point. I could do, oh, you're so stupid. Oh my God, how could you do that? You've dishonored your guest. You didn't pay attention. You look stupid in front of everybody. Option A. Option B is to just notice, oh, you did that, without a judgment. And option C is, let's just keep moving. But shouldn't I be punished? I did something wrong. I did something bad. did something stupid that dishonored a guest. Or could I just let it go, acknowledge what happened, and move on? You see, this is what happens sometimes with us. I decided to take option B. Just so you know. I only did option A for about 30 seconds. I just okay, I'm having this experience. I'm just going to notice I'm having this experience, and I can be done with it and move on. But think about it. When we do that deep inner work and look at ourselves, it is easy to get stuck in that trap of you're bad, you're stupid, I can't believe it, and therefore you should be punished and you don't deserve to be alive, and you should go live in a box under a bridge somewhere with the other bad people. I mean, it's just really, wait a minute. Anybody ever do that to yourself? Would you ever do that to somebody else? No. Well, maybe, but but that's what this whole introspective point is about, because when we can get to the point that we can just notice without judging, then we have truly connected with what we call Christ consciousness. And the thing is, we can all do it. It becomes a practice. Within our meditation teachings, we talk about the observer self. And we all have it. It's one of the great gifts about being a human being. We actually have the capacity to observe our own behaviors, observe our own thoughts. and then make a decision. What do we want to do with our observations? We can use our observations and beat ourselves up, or we can use our observations and choose to do differently, choose to have a different experience. It's that simple, and it's that hard. As we live in a culture that teaches that these people are good and those people are bad and these should be punished and that should be punished, and it just gets very convoluted, and yet there's something within us that just knows, I am a good person. I am created in the image and likeness of the divine, and every day I am committing to working for the greater expression of the truth of who I am. Christ in you, the hope of glory. And every day that's a sifting and panning for gold sort of process. But the reality is, the gold is always there because you are the gold. And the reality is that the more you look, the more you're going to find. It's like, I can't imagine what it must be like to live with a professional auditor. No, don't look too close. But it doesn't have to be a problem. And it in no way, shape, form indicates a judgment that you are a bad person. You see, when we're currently, many of us, in a study of the material nonviolent communication, it was work with Marshall Rosenberg. One of the first lessons we learn is to make the difference between an observation and an evaluation. An observation is, it snowed this week. An evaluation is, winter is bad. But it's very easy to conflate those two if you moved here from Florida. No, we're not moving back. But you see, we do that a lot. So an observation about ourselves is, I overate too many pigs in a blanket after first service, so why were they even there? But I'm grateful they were. I ate too many, and so therefore I must be a bad person who doesn't care about his health and who's just really going to have like all kinds of bad problems as a result of that. What is this? One is an observation, one is an evaluation. And so we want to be real clear about which we're doing about ourselves and about which is helpful. Because one of the things about the observer self that we teach, and one of the things about the meditation practices we always bring forward, this observer self, this Christ self, to use the Christian verbiage, is always looking at us with the eyes of kindness and compassion, with that desire that the best and highest good that each and every one of us is will continually be given shape and form. We do this work our entire lives. You know, it's easy if you have like little toddlers around and they kind of wobble and they bobble and then they fall down and then they're trying to eat themselves and then the spaghetti's halfway across the room and then there's like the whole potty training thing. And you look at these children and you don't say, you're a bad person because it's just the natural evolutionary journey. It's just natural things they learn to do. And somewhere along the line, those of us who are former children will look at ourselves and say, I woulda, shoulda, coulda known not to do X or not, and start beating ourselves up as if somehow once we cross the magical threshold, let's say 21, which we all know is complete adulthood, I'm still working on it, as if we get to a certain point, we should know everything. But here's the reality, and you hear us talk about it all the time. We are always growing and learning and evolving at every single age until we draw our last breath. And I don't know what happens after that, but I assume the process continues without the form of the physical. And that observer self is still there, looking at us with the eyes of the most loving grandmother or grandparent who has seen it all twice and loves unconditionally. You see, we carry that observer with us, and the more we can connect with that, the more we can love ourselves into our excellence, the more we can love ourselves into a peace of mind, and the more we can love ourselves into wisdom. We don't have to beat ourselves up on our journey of self-discovery. Quite the contrary. The journey of self-discovery and self-knowledge will be easier, more fulfilling, and enriching the more we are willing to love ourselves and just simply notice and let it go. I invite you to join me in a moment of prayer, if you would, please, as we allow these ideas and this consciousness of Chinese New Year abundance to settle in deep within us into the very marrow of our bones. So you may wish to close your eyes or simply soften your gaze, keeping your eyes open. Keeping your eyes open to the blessedness that you are and that this world is. Let us make a commitment in our prayer, our attention, our affirmation is that we will stay open to simply observing ourselves. We are not mistake-free people, but we can choose to be blame-free people. We willingly acknowledge what we choose to keep, our character strengths that are too many to count, really. And we acknowledge what we're willing to let go. And the first thing is to let go of ourselves as anything less than the truth of who we are. Capable, beautiful, lovable, regardless of what's come before. This is true for us. We open our hearts and become willing to love all others. We know it is a tremendous amount of work to honestly look at ourselves. Oh, but it is so rewarding and liberating. And so we compassionately support those others who are doing the same and those who are unaware. We bless them that their minds and hearts might open to their own magnificence so that they might stop beating themselves up and projecting that onto others. We are co-creators of a world that works for everyone when we are willing to be compassionate to ourselves first, giving ourselves the oxygen mask, as the flight attendant says, and knowing there's more than enough love to go around. And so if we find ourselves conflicted internally, we just simply notice the conflict and affirm peace. And if we experience conflict in the outer world, we simply notice it and affirm peace and listen for Spirit's guidance as to what might be ours to do, if anything. The psalmist said, "Be still and know that I am God." So may we all be still and know that I am that divinity within us. And realize that divinity is us. And that every day through our panning of the gold of our lives, that brightness is revealed more than ever before. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen and amen. Happy New Year. It's going to be awesome. Thanks.